Jake Morrison walked into the huge meeting room with his head held high. The room was bigger than any building he had ever seen on Earth. Crystal walls reached up so high that he could barely see the top. Lights floated in the air without any wires or supports. Around him sat creatures from 47 different worlds. The Galactic Council chamber was designed to make visitors feel small. It worked on most species. But Jake had been a soldier before he became a diplomat. He had seen worse things than a room full of aliens trying to scare him. He stopped at the center of the room. A small platform rose from the floor to lift him up. Now all the council members could see him clearly. Jake looked around the room slowly. He wanted to remember this moment. The Chancellor of the Zephorian people stood up first. His name was Veltar, and his skin was so clear that Jake could see his organs moving inside his body. It was gross, but Jake kept his face blank. Human Ambassador Morrison, Veltar said in perfect English. The translator devices made sure everyone could understand each other. The Galactic Council has made its final decision about your species. Jake said nothing. He just waited. Your people have been members of this council for 23 years. Veltar continued. At that time you have caused more problems than any species in our history. You ignore our rules. You change your bodies. With machines and chemicals, you expand to worlds without asking permission. You fight wars in ways that make no sense. Other council members began to speak up. A tall blue alien with 4 arms pointed at Jake. Humans are unpredictable. They make deals and then change them. They say they want peace, but they always prepare for war. A small furry creature that looked like a cat standing on 2 legs hissed at Jake. Human traders sell weapons to both sides of conflicts. They profit from chaos. Jake listened to them complain about his people. Some of what they said was true. Humans did bend rules, did change their bodies with technology. They did expand fast and fight in ways that confused other species. But Jake was proud of these things. The council has decided, Veltar announced. Humanity has 30 standard days to comply with the genetic modification protocol. Augmentations must be removed. All cybernetic parts must be taken out of human bodies. All genetic improvements must be reversed. Jake felt his artificial eye recording everything. The tiny computer in his brain was storing every word. His enhanced muscles stayed relaxed even though he wanted to fight. Furthermore, Veltar continued, humans must stop all expansion beyond your current territories. No new colonies, no new mining operations, no new research stations. And if we refuse... His voice was calm and steady. A large reptilian alien laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. Then you will be expelled from the council. No more protection. No more trade agreements. No more shared technology. Your species will be alone in the dark. We have seen what happens to species that reject council guidance, said another alien. This one looked like a walking tree with too many eyes. They always die out within a few generations. The galaxy is too dangerous for species that try to survive alone. Jake nodded slowly. He had expected this. His government had prepared him for this exact situation. Earth's leaders had hoped for a different outcome, but they were ready for the worst. The United Earth Federation has considered your terms, Jake said. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. He placed it on the platform beside him. It projected a hologram of official documents. We formally withdraw from the Galactic Council effective immediately, Jake announced. We renounce all treaties. We cancel all trade agreements. We end all mutual defense pacts. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens were shouting in dozens of languages. Some seemed angry. Others seemed shocked. A few seemed pleased. Jake waited for the noise to die down. Then he continued. We thank the Council for making our choice clear. Humanity chooses freedom over membership. You fool, hissed the cat-like alien. You have just condemned your entire species to death. Jake started walking toward the exit. The platform followed him, keeping him visible to all the council members. Without our protection, you will be destroyed by pirates and raiders, called out the blue four-armed alien. Without our trade routes, your economy will collapse. Without our technology, your expansion will stop. Jake reached the massive doors that led out of the chamber. He stopped and turned around one last time. Every alien in the room was staring at him. "You want to know what I think?" Jake asked. His voice carried clearly through the chamber. "I think you're scared of us. I think you always have been. You saw humans doing things differently and it frightened you." "We are not afraid," Veltar said angrily. "We are trying to save you from yourselves." Jake smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "No, you're trying to make us like you. Slow, predictable, controlled. But that's not what humans are." "Then what are humans?" asked the tree-like alien. "We're the species that looks at impossible things and figures out how to do them anyway," Jake said. "We're the ones who see a wall and ask what's on the other side. We're the ones who get told something can't be done and then do it just to prove you wrong." The chamber fell silent. "You think exile will kill us?" Jake continued. "Maybe you're right. Maybe we'll die out there in the dark between stars. But if we do, we'll die as humans, not as your pets." Jake turned and walked toward the door. It opened automatically as he approached. "You will regret this decision," Veltar called after him. "When your colonies start failing and your people start dying, you will beg us to take you back." Jake paused at the threshold. He looked back one more time at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. "Maybe," he said quietly, "but I don't think so." The doors closed behind him with a sound like thunder. Captain Lisa Hayes stood on the bridge of her ship and watched the stars. Behind her, 300 human ships moved in perfect formation. They were leaving everything they had built in galactic space. But Lisa felt no sadness. She felt free. The New Horizon was not a warship. It was a civilian transport built to carry families and workers. But today it led the largest human fleet ever assembled. Every ship was packed with people, equipment, and supplies. They were going home to the dark. "Captain," called her first officer. "We're receiving final clearance codes from the colony worlds. All human settlements report successful evacuation." Lisa nodded. 6 months had passed since Jake Morrison walked out of the council chamber. 6 months of careful planning and precise execution. The Galactic Council expected chaos and panic. Instead, they got military efficiency. On the planet below, Dr. Alex Turner watched his team's work. They were dismantling the atmospheric processors that had taken 15 years to build. Every piece of human technology was being carefully removed and packed for transport. Alex had helped design these machines. They had turned a dead rock into a world where humans could breathe and grow food. Now they were taking it all apart piece by piece. "Dr. Turner," said one of his workers, "the aliens from the mining consortium are here. They want to know when we'll be finished." Alex looked at the group of aliens watching from a safe distance. They were Corvin traders who had paid the council good money for the rights to this planet. They expected to take over a fully functional world. Instead, they would get bare rock. "Tell them we'll be done when we're done," Alex said, "and remind them that the atmospheric processors belong to us. We built them. We're taking them with us." Led Corvin approached. It was tall and thin with green skin and 4 eyes. "Human Turner," it said through its translator. "Surely you do not intend to remove all the equipment. The planet will become uninhabitable again." "That's not our problem anymore," Alex replied. "You wanted us gone? We're going. But we're taking our toys with us." "This is unreasonable," the alien complained. "The council promised us a functioning colony world." Alex shrugged. "Then you should have thought about that before you kicked us out." Across the galaxy, the same scene was playing out on dozens of worlds. Humans were leaving nothing behind that they could take with them. Mining equipment, power generators, water purification systems, communication networks. Humans were taking it. On the industrial world of Kepler 44-b, Foreman Roy Jackson supervised the dismantling of the largest titanium processing plant in the sector. His crews worked around the clock, carefully taking apart machinery that had cost billions to install. "Sir," said one of his workers, "the plant supervisor from the Centaurian Republic is asking about the operating manuals for the equipment we're leaving behind." Roy laughed. "What equipment? We're not leaving anything behind." The worker looked confused. Sir, some of this machinery is built into the planet's crust. Can't be moved. Watch me, Roy said. He led his worker to the main assembly hall where the largest machines hummed with activity. These were the fusion-powered refineries that could process raw or into pure metal. Each one was the size of a city block and had been constructed in place. Roy pulled out a small device and pressed a button. The massive machines began to change. Sections folded in on themselves. Support structures retracted into hidden compartments. What had looked like permanent installations revealed themselves to be modular designs that could be completely disassembled. How? The worker asked in amazement. Standard human engineering, Roy explained. We always build things so we can take them apart later. These aliens never learned that lesson. In space above the planet, Admiral Kate Sullivan watched the evacuation. From her flagship, the Defiant was a heavy cruiser designed for deep space patrol. Today it was serving as the command ship for the largest military withdrawal in human history. Admiral, reported her communications officer. All fleet commanders, confirm readiness. Military evacuation is complete. Kate nodded. Signal all ships to begin Protocol 7. Protocol 7, the officer replied. Throughout the fleet, human ships began transmitting coded signals to installations they were leaving behind. On planets, space stations, and asteroid mines, hidden systems activated. Nothing exploded. Nothing was destroyed. But critical components began to shut down in sequence. The aliens watching the human departure had no idea what Protocol 7 meant. They would find out later when they tried to restart the facilities humans had abandoned. Power grids that should have worked perfectly would fail at random intervals. Computer systems would develop mysterious glitches. Transportation networks would suffer constant breakdowns. Humans had not sabotaged anything. They had simply removed the small components that made everything else work properly, like taking the batteries out of a flashlight. Everything looked fine until you tried to. Turn it on. Captain Ben Torres of the survey ship Explorer sent his final report to Earth Command. His team had been mapping the galaxy's outer rim for 3 years. Now they were guiding the Exodus fleet toward regions that other species considered worthless. Command, this is Explorer, Ben transmitted. We have located 17 systems beyond the Council's monitoring range. All systems show potential for colonization. Transmitting coordinates now. Coordinates led to parts of the galaxy that appeared empty on all Council star charts. Other species had surveyed these regions and found nothing interesting. How valuable? Minerals, no habitable planets, no strategic importance. But humans had different standards for what made a place valuable. They saw potential where others saw problems. They found opportunity in places others considered hopeless. Lisa. Hayes watched the last Council monitoring station disappear from her sensors. Behind her, the combined human fleet moved into the unknown regions beyond civilized space. They were leaving safety, comfort, and certainty behind. Captain, asked her navigator, do we really know what we're doing out here? Lisa smiled. No, but that's never stopped humans before. The fleet continued deeper into the void, carrying with them every piece of technology, every bit of knowledge, and every dream of independence that humanity had ever possessed. Behind them, the lights of galactic civilization grew dim and eventually disappeared entirely. They were alone now in the darkness between stars. But they were free. 2 years had passed since the last human ship disappeared beyond the galaxy's edge. The Galactic Council had divided up human territories among member species. Trade routes were redistributed. New colonies were established. Life went on, but Commander Seth Brooks was beginning to notice problems. Seth worked for the Altarian Border Patrol. His job was to monitor the outer regions of Council space for pirates, smugglers, and other threats. For 20 years it had been boring work. The borders were quiet and safe. Now his sensors were picking up strange readings. Computer, analyze energy signature from Sector 77 Alpha. Seth commanded from his patrol ship. Energy signature. Does not match any known technology in galactic database, the computer replied. Source appears to be moving at faster than light speeds, but not using conventional hyperspace travel. Seth frowned. How is that possible? Unknown. Recommend further investigation. Seth had been getting reports like this for months. Deep space monitoring stations detected energy readings that made no sense. Ships that appeared and disappeared without using any known form of travel. Signals that seemed to come from empty space. All the readings came from the same general direction. The direction where humans had last been seen. On the former human world of New Geneva.
Hey!
Dr. Nina Foster was having her own problems. Nina was an archaeologist who studied the remains of extinct civilizations. The council had hired her to catalog what humans had left behind. What she found confused her. This doesn't make sense, Nina muttered, as she studied the abandoned power station. They didn't just remove the equipment, they removed it surgically. Her assistant, a young Veshan named Kexva, looked over her shoulder. What do you mean? Look at these connection points, Nina explained. Every cable, every pipe, every wire was disconnected at precise locations. They knew exactly which components to remove to make the whole system useless. Maybe they just took everything valuable, Kexva suggested. No, that's not it. Nina pulled up holographic displays showing the station's original design. They left behind all the expensive parts. The fusion reactor is still here. The main computer core is intact. But they took small components that most people wouldn't even notice. Nina had been studying human ruins for 6 months. Every installation told the same story. Humans had removed specific pieces of equipment that seemed worthless but were actually critical for operation. It was like they had taken all the screws out of a machine and left everything else behind. It's almost like they wanted to make sure. We couldn't use anything they built, Nina said. Across the galaxy. Trade Minister Vergen was discovering the same thing on a much larger scale. Vergen was a Centaurian who managed commercial relationships between different species. His job was to keep goods and services flowing smoothly throughout Council space. The job was becoming impossible. The medical supply shortage is getting worse, reported his assistant. Human trading companies supplied 60% of all antibiotics in the outer colonies. Without them, we're seeing disease outbreaks on 12 different worlds. Virgin rubbed his four-eyed head in frustration. What about the rare earth elements for computer manufacturing? Even worse. Humans controlled the mining operations for 73 different minerals. We're trying to restart the mines, but the equipment keeps breaking down. Our engineers can't figure out how the human systems worked. And the agricultural supplies? Critical shortages? Human farmers developed new crop varieties that could grow in harsh conditions. Without their seeds and fertilizers, food production is dropping across the sector. Vergen stared at the reports covering his desk. Every week brought news of new shortages and system failures. The Council had thought humans were just another member species. They were wrong. Humans had been the galaxy's repair crew, supply network, and problem solvers all rolled into one. Sir, his assistant said quietly, there's something else. Found a message. What kind of message? It was hidden in the computer systems of the old human research station on Kepler 186F. Our code breakers just cracked it. The assistant activated a holographic display. The message was simple text in English. Thanks for the heads up. The failsafes are now active. Recommend you don't try to follow us. Some doors, once opened, can't be closed again. Security Chief, Don Williams. Virgin stared at the message. Fail-safes. What fail-safes? We think it means the system breakdowns aren't accidents. The humans designed their equipment to fail if they weren't there to maintain it. Meanwhile, at the edge of Council space, Captain Zixstar of the exploration vessel Wanderer was making discoveries that would terrify the Council leadership. Captain called a science officer. We're detecting a derelict ship ahead. Configuration unknown. Zixstar studied the sensor readings. The ship was large, sleek, and definitely not built by any Council species. Its design was similar to human vessels, but more advanced. Take us closer, Zixstar ordered. As they approached, the mysterious ship became more puzzling. It showed no signs of damage or wear. Its hull was intact, and its engines were still glowing with residual energy. Sir, the ship is responding to our presence, the science officer reported. It's activating systems. Are there life signs aboard? No. Sir, the ship appears to be completely empty. but it's definitely operational. Zixstar ordered a boarding party to investigate. What they found made no sense. The ship was pristine inside. Life support was running perfectly. The computer systems hummed with activity. Everything worked flawlessly, but there was nobody home. Like the crew just vanished, reported the boarding party leader. But they left everything running. Food in the galley is still fresh. Personal belongings are still in the quarters. Whatever happened here, it happened recently. Can you access the computer systems? No, sir. The interface doesn't match any known protocols. It's definitely human in origin, but the technology is decades ahead of anything they had when they left Council space. Zixstar ordered his ship to withdraw to a safe distance. Over the next few days, they detected 6 more derelict ships in the same region. All were empty. All were operational. All were waiting for crews that had disappeared. The reports from Commander Brooks, Dr. Foster, Minister Virgin, and Captain Zixstar eventually reached the council chambers on Nexus Prime. Chancellor Veltar.
Veltar read them in his private office with growing concern.
What exactly were they building out there? He muttered to himself. For the first time since the human exodus, members of the Galactic Council began to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. The humans were supposed to die quietly in the void. Instead, they seemed to be thriving and advancing in ways that defied explanation. The galaxy was starting to realize that it needed humanity far more than humanity had ever needed the galaxy. 5 years after humanity disappeared, Captain Amy Patterson was having the strangest day of her career. Her patrol ship Sentinel was cruising through the Vega sector when her sensors detected something impossible. Captain called her sensor. Operator, I'm reading a single ship at the edge of the asteroid belt. Configuration matches human design, but the energy signature is off the charts. Amy studied the readings on her command screen. The ship was definitely human-built, but the power levels were incredible. How much energy is it generating? Approximately 50 times what our largest battleship produces, ma'am. And it's just sitting there. Amy felt her skin crawl. Any response to our standard hails? No, ma'am. It's not responding to any communication attempts. Amy had heard rumors about mysterious human ships appearing throughout Council space, ships that watched but never communicated, ships that seemed to possess technology far beyond anything humans had when they left. Take us to within scanning range, Amy ordered. But keep our weapons ready. As the Sentinel approached, Amy got her first clear visual of the strange vessel. It was sleek and beautiful in a way that human ships had never been before. The hull seemed to shimmer with internal light, and the engines glowed with colors that hurt to look at directly. Ma'am, the sensor operator said nervously. Ship is scanning us back. Your sensor beams are penetrating our shields like they're not even there. Any hostile intent? No, ma'am. Oh. They're just looking. Oh. But their scans are mapping our entire ship down to the molecular level. As Amy ordered her ship to hold position. For 3 hours, the two vessels studied each other across the void. The human ship made no aggressive moves, but it also gave no indication of what it wanted. Then it simply vanished. Where did it go? Amy demanded. I don't know, ma'am. It didn't jump to hyperspace. It didn't activate any stealth systems. It just stopped existing on our sensors. Amy was about to order a search pattern when the ship reappeared in exactly the same location, as if nothing had happened. How is that possible? Amy whispered. Her science officer, a Corvin named Vexul, studied the readings with 4 eyes wide with fear. Captain, I think they moved outside of normal space-time. They didn't travel anywhere. They just stepped out of our reality and then stepped back in. Similar encounters began happening throughout Council space. Human ships appeared at the edge of star systems, observed for hours or days, then disappeared without explanation. They never approached inhabited worlds. They never interfered with trade or military operations. They just watched Dr. Ben Carter. Had been retired for 8 years when the Council called him back to active duty. Ben was the galaxy's leading expert on human psychology and behavior. If anyone could figure out what the humans were doing, it was him. Ben studied hundreds of reports from across Council space. The pattern was clear and terrifying. They're conducting systematic intelligence gathering, Ben told the emergency session of the Council's Security Committee. Every major military base, industrial center, and population hub has been surveyed by these observer ships. What are they preparing for? Asked Admiral Culver of the Dominion fleet. I don't know, Ben admitted. But the scope of their operations suggests they're planning something big. Something that requires detailed knowledge of our entire civilization. The breakthrough came when xenolinguist Sam Torres managed to intercept and decode a transmission between two of the observer ships. Sam had spent her entire career studying human languages and culture. If anyone could understand what the humans were saying, it was her. The message is brief, Sam reported to the council. But it contains terminology that I've never seen before. They're discussing something called quantum anchor points and dimensional stability coefficients. What does that mean? Chancellor Veltar asked. I'm not sure, but based on context, I think they're talking about manipulating the basic structure of space and time itself. The council chamber fell silent. The implications were staggering. Admiral Culver stood up angrily. This is intolerable. These humans are spying on us and planning some kind of attack. I request permission to deploy the Third Fleet to intercept and destroy these observer ships. Granted, Chancellor Veltar said after a moment's hesitation. But be careful, Admiral. We don't know what we're dealing with. The Third Fleet was the pride of the Dominion military. 12 heavy cruisers and 40 escort vessels, all equipped with the most advanced weapons in Council space. Admiral Culver was confident they could handle one mysterious human ship. He was wrong. The fleet found their target in the Centauri system. A single human vessel holding position near the outer planets. Admiral Culver ordered his ships to surround it and demanded its surrender. The human ship did not respond to communications. It made no attempt to flee or fight back, it simply activated something. Admiral, reported the fleet's science officer. The target is generating some kind of field. It's affecting space-time around our forward ships. 3 of Culver's cruisers began to phase in and out of normal reality. Their crews reported experiencing strange time distortions. Minutes passed like hours, hours compressed into seconds. The ships became translucent and started drifting out of phase with the rest of the fleet. All ships, withdraw immediately, Admiral Culver ordered. But it was too late. The 3 affected cruisers were trapped in whatever the human ship had done to them. They were still there, but not quite there. Existing in a state between normal space and somewhere else entirely, the human ship watched calmly as the rest of the fleet retreated. Then it simply vanished as mysteriously as it had appeared. The rescue operation took 3 weeks. From 6 different species worked together to develop technology that could pull the trapped ships back into normal space-time. When the crews were finally extracted, they had experienced subjective months inside the distortion field, even though only minutes had passed in real time. What did you see in there? Admiral Culver asked the survivors. Colors that don't exist, one captain replied.
Sounds
That had no source. Time that moved backwards and forwards at the same time. It was like reality had become optional. The incident report reached Chancellor Veltar within hours. He read it twice before calling an emergency session of the full council. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all classifications, he began, we have a problem. Humanity has not fled into exile to die quietly. They have been preparing for something. And their technological capabilities now exceed anything we thought possible. The chamber erupted in worried discussions. Species that had never agreed on anything suddenly found themselves united in fear. What do we do? Asked the Vessian representative. Chancellor Veltar looked around the chamber at the faces of beings from dozens of worlds. All of them were looking to him for answers he didn't have. We activate the Galactic Defense Protocol, he said finally. And we prepare for the possibility that we may have awakened something that we cannot control. The session ended with a unanimous vote to militarize all border systems and begin emergency preparations for threats beyond their understanding. The galaxy was finally beginning to realize that humanity's exile had not been their punishment. It had been their transformation. 10 years after humanity walked away from the galaxy, Every screen in council space lit up at the same moment. On every world, in every ship, on every space station, the same message appeared. It should have been impossible. No communication system could reach that many places at once, across such vast distances. But there it was. President Ryan Mitchell appeared on billions of screens throughout the galaxy. He looked older than when humans had left, but there was something different about him. His eyes seemed to see more than they should. Behind him, through transparent walls, stretched structures that defied understanding. "Citizens of the galaxy," President Mitchell began. His voice was calm and peaceful, but it carried to every corner of known space. 10 years ago, your council gave humanity an ultimatum. Surrender our independence or face exile. We chose exile. Chancellor Veltar watched from his emergency command center on Nexus Prime. Around him, his advisors stared at the screens in shock and fear. Today, President Mitchell continued, we return not as supplicants begging for mercy, but as equals, offering one final opportunity for peaceful coexistence. The view behind Mitchell shifted, showing vast fleets of ships that stretched beyond the horizon. The vessels were clearly human in design, but had evolved into something beautiful and terrifying. They moved in formations that seemed to dance through space itself. We did not flee to the void to hide, Mitchell explained. We traveled beyond the galaxy's edge to learn from teachers you never knew existed. We have returned not just as humans, but as something more? Admiral Grace Cooper appeared on the screens next. She stood on the bridge of a ship that seemed to be built from crystallized starlight. Round her, humans worked at stations that looked more like works of art than military equipment. For those interested in technical details, Admiral Cooper said, humanity has mastered dimensional engineering, quantum manipulation, and probability cascading. We have transcended the physical limitations that bind other species to a single layer of reality. Dr. Alina Rodriguez joined the transmission from what appeared to be a laboratory the size of a small moon. We have learned to step between dimensions as easily as walking between rooms. We can exist in multiple realities simultaneously, can manipulate the fundamental forces that hold the universe together. The council chambers erupted in panic. Species representatives shouted over each other in dozens of languages. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for surrender. A few simply sat in stunned silence. What do they want? Chancellor Veltar asked his advisors. The answer came from President Mitchell himself. Our terms are simple, Galactic. Council has 30 days to formally apologize for their persecution of humanity and establish new treaties based on mutual respect and equality. And if we refuse, Veltar whispered, though he already knew the answer would be terrible, Colonel. Jack Stone appeared on the screens. He stood in what looked like the command center of a reality-shaping facility. Around him, technicians monitored displays that showed the quantum structure of space itself. Allow us to demonstrate our capabilities, Colonel Stone said calmly. The transmission shifted to show an uninhabited star system on the edge of Council space. 7 planets orbited a yellow star in peaceful silence. There were no life forms, no valuable resources, nothing important about the system at all. A single human ship appeared near the system's edge. It was smaller than many Council vessels, but it radiated power that made sensors scream warnings across the galaxy. Watch carefully, Colonel Stone instructed. The human ship did something. There was no visible weapon discharge, no energy beam, no explosion. The ship simply existed for a moment in a way that changed everything around it. The entire star system phase-shifted out of normal reality. The 7 planets didn't explode, or burn, or collapse. They simply stopped existing in baseline space-time while remaining perfectly intact in a parallel dimensional state. The star continued to shine, but its light came from somewhere else. Somewhere that wasn't quite here. Every sensor in the galaxy detected the impossible event. An entire solar system had been removed from the universe without being destroyed. It still existed, but in a place where normal physics had no meaning. The system has not been harmed, Colonel Stone explained. It has simply been relocated to a dimensional state where your technology cannot reach it. We can return it to normal space at any time, or we can leave it where it is forever. The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. If humans, could do this to an entire star system. They could do it to any world, any fleet, any species that opposed them. President Mitchell returned to the screen. We offer you a choice. Join us in reaching beyond the limitations of single-dimensional existence, or remain bound by the chains you have forged for yourselves. We have learned that the universe is far larger and more wonderful than any of us imagined, said Dr. Rodriguez. There are threats out there beyond the galaxy's edge that make our old conflicts seem petty. Beings that consume entire realities, forces that treat dimensions like toys. We offer to protect you from these dangers, but we also offer you advancement, added Admiral Cooper. The ability to step between worlds without ships, the power to reshape matter and energy at will, the knowledge to exist in multiple realities simultaneously. The choice is yours, President Mitchell concluded, but no. Never again will humanity bow to any council, any empire, or any force that seeks to diminish what we can become. As the transmission ended, human ships began appearing in every major system simultaneously, not as invaders, but as patient guardians. They took up positions at the edge of each system and waited. Chancellor Veltar looked around the council, chamber at the representatives of 47 species. All of them were staring at him, waiting for him to somehow solve an impossible situation. What do we do? Asked the Thessian representative in a small voice. Veltar thought about the humans. He had dismissed as primitive and unpredictable. The species he had tried to control and contain, the beings who had chosen exile over submission and had returned as masters of reality itself. We surrender, Veltar said quietly. We hope they are as merciful as they claim to be. The age of the Galactic Council was ending. The age of humanity's ascendancy had begun. And across the galaxy, beings who had once considered humans nothing more than troublesome. Upstarts finally understood the true meaning of human determination. They had tried to chain humanity to their small vision of what was possible. Instead, they had freed humanity to discover what they could become when nothing held them back.